G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talk Stuff, Ukraine War Update for the 22nd of February 2026. Sometimes I have said 25, but I've noticed a lot of the time Google, when it's doing the subtitles, is claiming I said 25 when I said 26. It's wackadoo, isn't it? So as the war continues, the wackadoo continues, of course, the shit show that is Ukraine. The clown car of macabre comedy continues in Kiev, though the Russian strikes, again, are not actually targeting political targets, they're targeting military targets. And that's why you don't know what was hit, because they won't show you. They will always claim it was civilian buildings, but they'll show the aftermath of air defenses, right? How many of those horizontal strikes on buildings were air defense missiles or stray bullets from what do you call it? I know they call it something else now. You know, flak guns, anti-aircraft guns, but I'm trying to think. Air defense cannons. Right, air defense cannons. They never tell you that, we shut up the side of a building tracking a drone, you know. They never tell you about all this, what goes up comes down. So you see all these things that they fly into the air, they're going to come down somewhere. Oh, that's the poor people's suburbs. Of course. It doesn't matter, it's the poor's. And we have activity on the buffer zone in Sydney, nothing of consequence. Apparently Russia's seized a couple of border villages over the last couple of days and nobody's noticed or cared. Ukraine hasn't even bothered to write them up. But there's you go, right there. Russia's captured a few little here and there spots along the border. They're still messing around in Karpivka. I still think it's a bear trap, though Russian media claims they are on a serious offensive to capture Karpivka. It's just they've been on a serious offensive to capture Karpivka over 2 years now. And they have held it only briefly in that time. However, in other areas, there is a slow molasses of advance, but they have not taken Lyman. It's to be expected. Most of Ukraine's defenses are in towns. Remember, they do outnumber the Russians. The Russians are not sending in a large force, and they are spread out because multi-rocket systems that Russia uses to stop Ukrainian offensives can also be used to stop theirs. The good old adage, anything you can do, I'll eventually do, right? You get enough people together, right? You start catapulting, they start catapulting, right? Right, this is a monkey, this goes back to monkeys. Monkey picks his nose, flings it at someone, has a laugh, and now everybody's flinging it, But Russia's made slow advances here and there in the north, a little bit here and there on the central front, but most of the central front, however, is static, though there is a lot of activity. But here and there, there are movement. Russia is encircling at Volensky. They've taken more land near Pokrovsk. They've crossed here the rail line. They're still getting the Ukrainians coming in here, but they're fixing to cut them off, fixing to move up here. This town here. Yeah, where Zelensky actually announced he was sending troops. Same with here. They actually been troops there for some time. Never came down to defend Pavlovsk. Here and there, Ukrainian troops still fighting and losing. only a small amount of ground, though. The Russians haven't pushed them back far. Of course, they all pat themselves on the back and say how brave they are. But that's, the heat of the battle, the lack of time to sober up and realize that what are you fighting for? It's not your home, right? It's millions of foreigners pouring money into Ukraine every day for Ukraine to fight the Russians under the guise of the domino theory. If we don't stop the Russians now, right? You could have stopped the Russians. You could have had a peace agreement in 2022, but you didn't want the peace agreement. You wanted victory, right? It's not you. The liberal establishment wanted victory. So the liberal establishment, however, isn't fighting this war. You don't see the Wall Street journalists putting their life on the line. No. And how many of their donations are done through charities, right? Just as tax dodge, right? But here and there is only small movement on the battlefield. And that's why most people are tuning out. Not hyper, got to hype you up and sound so excited about war and get everybody interested in war. And then you wonder why people die in war and nothing gets, and why civilization ends. Here again are those protesting the war. Again, none of them fight it. They're all sloppy Ukrainian, but it's always someone else who has to do the fighting and dying for them, They give you nothing and they take everything, right? What are they? Then you get the whole list of political bullshit, Now, this is an energy. This, in part, is about energy, right? Ukraine wants to control the flow of oil in the region. Everybody else said no, right? We have a pipeline agreement and you keep breaking it, right? And they said, no, we reject your statements as provocative and irresponsible. So that sounds like it was written by a Frenchman, right? You threaten the security of the entire region. Actually, Ukraine, you're the one, right, who blew up pipelines. You're the one cutting off pipelines. You're the one who was, since 2014, been shelling civilians, calling it security. And, of course, trying to tell the average liberal, no, that's their right to be security. And, okay, then every American has the right to bomb your home for security because you're a threat to them. No, we're not the threat. We're not the fascists. Yes, you are. You're the ones using violence to get your way, right? There's no vote, right? It's no democracy in Ukraine. Hasn't been, right? You had a coup, and then every president since then has only been elected by a minority of people who are allowed to vote. I wonder who gets to vote in the Ukraine elections. Not the man at the front. That would take them away from the war. So, more drones, more weapons, every day. Oh, a peaceful ground force for a free and independent Ukraine. No, wait, no, you're fighting to have Ukraine join the EU. How is that free and independent? They haven't had a real election since ever. They've never had an honest election, right? Europe refused to get involved. Europe didn't even certify Zelensky, right? They certified him after the Russian invasion, right? Because Boris Johnson talking about free independence. The man who was trying to undo Brexit, undo the independence of the UK. The peasants at Airstrip are revolting again. Oh, I know, they're always revolting. I cannot stand them. So, Slovakia threatens to cut off the electricity in Ukraine because, that's what they do, right? They've got nothing else, no leverage. Europe won't back them up. Europe won't cut them off, right? Slovakia, right, who was tricked into joining the EU on the promises of jobs, promises of safety, promises of security, right, are now finding themselves having to fork out millions of dollars every day to Ukraine. And Ukraine has used the pipeline to threaten, to blackmail, to coerce Slovakia into giving it more, to giving it power, to giving it aid, and now they're cutting it off again. Why? Because they want more arms, right? They want them to vote for a $90 billion package and give them lots of free money. Yeah, see, it's an oil dispute, right? Right? EU loan, right? EU, give them more money, right? Cut off Slovakia and other states to force them to buy more expensive oil, right? Which is probably the same oil, but it's coming from an Indian oil company. So we must be we must be of diversity quotas. All right, so the West, right? Without a doubt, the M2 Bradley is the most effective vehicle in Ukraine right now. On the Ukrainian side, right? Probably without the M2 and the 2 missile, right? Russian forces would, well, be... well, actually, I think, I suppose it's because rockets, right? They don't use that many rockets per day. They're expensive. It's the same. Artillery is expensive. Most of it is ground force fighting, right? And the thing that's keeping the Russians pinned is the fact that Ukraine is spending lots and lots of time, money, and effort racing Bradleys up and down the battlefield, keeping the Russian artillery, mobile artillery, and troops from a steady advance. But they are advancing anyway. Why? Because they can counter battery. And one of their best counter batteries is the Tupan mortar, as you can see there. Right? It literally is a mobile mortar. It's a 203mm mortar. Right? It folds down to load, then it pops up and then goes tunk. Right? It actually fires in reverse, right? It drives forward, right? But as you can see, right, it's got a fold down mortar barrel, right? Let's see. There you go, see? There you go. There's the you got an internal and external, right, mechanism, right? You got a standard track vehicle, right? There's the good old Z. Look at that, 203mm, right? There it is. See, look, there it is, right? Sights, yeah. See, folds up and goes donk. That's what it's got on its own base. It's got a gunner on top with the 12.7, right? There's a firing. There's a gunner adjusting for effect, right? And there, firing officer, there. 203mm of, often these explosions, right? You go back to the Ukraine map, often these explosions far off are Russia's long-range mortars, right? Firing off. See, there it goes. Up and tunk, right? Gets into firing position. Yeah, so it's a horizontal load from the front and it fires from the back. There's a gunner in his flash gear. Crew. Yeah, they go for the ride, right? It's got little hatches above, for air. There you go. Fire for effect. So, the Russian mortar, right? It's a weird one. It's not the only weird one, but it's let's see. It's a somewhat used to be considered just a relic of the Cold War with no real purpose. But now, with as a counter battery to Ukraine, as well as a means of clearing villages, there's the load, right? I put the shell, right? It's actually 3 parts. You've got, let's see how there's the firing. Yeah. Loads up, loads in, right? From the internal, internal store. You can see there. Russia could literally, all those broken buildings, right? Literally just devastate, right? Just sit there for days. Pump, 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 pump. So you can imagine, right? They're not firing that many per day, right? They're not, although they are expending a lot of ammunition for, that's the standard in war, right? They got drones, laser precision, if they wanted to. They also have the larger, they have actually a larger version, right? Much longer barrel, right? Long range mortar to fire up and over, right? As opposed to artillery, which has a low trajectory, right? Mortar has a high up and over trajectory. Why? Because it's a top-down weapon, right? It's to fire upon buildings, right? Take out and clear buildings. Clear the village of the building. So an occupied building could just be tonked and be gone, right? And they do, right? Just like Ukraine moves Bradleys to up and down the battlefield, keep them out of range of the Russian strikes, right? Keep them behind the lines of the fences so they have a chance to take out drones. But you've got to remember, the majority of drones on the battlefield are observation, not what you would call a scope cage. Yeah. As with a lot of vehicles, they are built on tank chassis, and they are stored in hardened buildings, and they come out, go for a drive, and have a tonk. Right. Our peace talks have rounded up in Geneva. Officially, they lasted 17th to 18th, although there were meetings held on the 19th and 20th with the US, and apparently the US also held some meetings with Ukraine. Officially, there has been nothing from Witkoff other than promises. Did someone teach him not to make promises until you actually have signatures on papers? Didn't you get told Zelensky's a POS who makes promises and won't sign agreements? Didn't anybody tell you about 2022? Please, I hate it when diplomats promise something. Talking about you. What's his name? 70s, 80s. Yeah. Lots of promises. Lots of different promises. Yeah. Can't think of his name now, but Europe's had the same. All Britain got all these promises from her Hitler, and he broke them all. So, Zelensky's just like his protege. Isn't who he says he is. Changed his name. Yeah, the list goes on. Right. Now, yeah, I believe Vladimir is not. I think Vladimir Zelensky is some clown they recruited. They, influence peddler, right? And they ran out of others. And they're running out of influence peddlers in Ukraine, by the way. They tend to have a short life. Most of the politicians tend to leave very quickly. But it's hard to say how many Ukrainian politicians are corrupt and framed for corruption because, in today's political climate, you see how many people create false narratives, right? Won't say anything about E. Jean Carroll or Rosie O'Donnell or The View, how they backflip. I'm sure. Did Joy Behar put her hip out as she backflipped on everybody on the Epstein Island list was guilty because found out her dear friend, Whoopi Goldberg. No cultural appropriation going on there. Hey, Whoopi. So, yeah, backflipping on. No, not everybody on the list is guilty. Well, who is and who isn't? We don't know. There's no trial, so we cannot say. But we do know Andrew paid out and got to avoid criminal charges. A lot of people paid out to avoid criminal charges. Now of course, the courts are going to rule on the double jeopardy before any cases can go forward. But the Liberals are clogging the courts with all their nonsense lawsuits about tariffs. Have you tried crying about it? So, in reality, Kiev, who has been given billions of dollars in arms, bought billions of bullets from China, India, allegedly, but India's, yeah. So, allegedly, right, bought ammunition from Poland. Again, the Polish company was a front for Chinese and Indians selling arms, right? It was a key minister of defense who actually owned the company that allegedly made all these mortars, right? And now, right, taking all that aid, right, that's sitting, right, as they constantly demand military assistance, right, all that aid sitting, right, waiting for delivery to Ukraine, right, it's been sold off, right? It's not even going to Kiev. It's been sold off to, they actually found rocket launchers. These are old Soviet era rocket launchers being sold off, right, to mostly peaceful migrants, So who's destabilizing? But Ukraine has reaped tens of billions of dollars in revenue, and they say, but it's defended. What if it? Of course, it's not taxed, right? Right? All these weapons that are given, right? It's all about GDP and printing money. It's not. There's no economy of Europe anymore. It's all GDP. Government spending. But experts have said that Zelensky has no leg to stand on anyway after the third round of talks, even though there is a what you would call a draft agreement. Zelensky hasn't agreed on, right, all of it. Oh, look, Zelensky forgot he's just for men today. Don't worry, it's the Russian media. That's why the photo hasn't been touched up to make him look like he's a spring chicken, And they forgot to, spack his worry lines, but or the bruise under his face. Yes, yes, we do. From all that posing and lying back for the Diddy parties. But, yeah. Again, many, not just Americans, but even some Europeans now recognize the fact that Zelensky has no authority to end the Ukraine war. He cannot. He literally has no authority. He has to get Parliament, and Parliament is overdue for election. So the courts have told him, and even the Washington think tanks, not exactly friends of Donald Trump either, all saying they want a Ukrainian election, right? But what they want to do is they want to drag this war out, embarrass Trump, and then have Senator Blumenthal and some other rhinos and say, well, Trump failed, but we secured a peace deal. You know, the shit, you know, the Dudley Do-Right, you know. Yeah, where reality, it's all theatre, political theatre, you know. And that's why I know hardly any of you watch my videos, and even less of you get this far, but I appreciate you anyway. I mean, YouTube is openly suppressing my videos, and yet, here you are. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Now you can support the channel on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy merch. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.